Hey everybody, welcome to Start a List with Carol and Stacy. I'm Stacy.
I'm Carol.
Howdy ho, ma'am.
Howdy ho. Howdy ho. Howdy ho. All right. Well,
Whew.
we're back and it's hot, 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 midsummer. And I got to thinking about how hot it probably is in other states. And then I realized that I had read something that we talked about on our last podcast, and it was about the Brady Bunch.
Mhm.
And who knew? You probably knew this. You can go tour the Brady Bunch house in Studio City, California. That's a new thing you can do.
I
Started in
think
this year.
somebody bought it and it's kind of turned it into a
Yes.
tourist attraction. I did read that
Yes.
somewhere.
It's a semi-private 1 hour tour. It's $300 a ticket. But think of what a chance of a lifetime and how cool that would
Yeah,
be.
I would totally do it.
I would totally do it. And you get to see the floating staircase, the orange and green kitchen, the living room, the kids' bedrooms with the bunks, Alice's
Mhm.
room, tons of props and everything. But
Yeah, that's
I
neat.
thought, oh, I really would love to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
But part of the proceeds, it's a nonprofit benefit, Wags and Walks dog
Oh,
rescue.
that's where I got my dog.
I know. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's nice. They must be
It
big
was
animal
neat.
lovers.
Yes.
Well, how was your 4th of July?
Uh actually surprisingly calm. I worked that morning and I don't know. I think I came home and did some whatever I
Mhm.
do. And then I think I watched a movie, heard the fireworks, but yeah, it was
Yeah.
relatively calm,
Our
which is how I
actual
like it.
Yes, same. Our actual 4th of July was calm. It was just me and Perry, and we cooked here at the house, or I should say he cooked here at the house, and we just watched TV and hung out with Phoebe. And
Yeah.
the day before, on the 3rd, I had my mom and dad, and then my son and his family came over for he had to work on the 4th. So we had like a,
Mm-hmm.
we were doing hamburgers and hot dogs, and my goodness, it came up the biggest storm right as we're about to start cooking.
Monsoon.
And we thought, oh, it'll blow over. Well, it did not blow over. And I looked outside, and all of these little aluminum pans that Perry uses on our Blackstone have made their way out of the box and are flying all over the backyard. The cushions from
Mm.
the patio furniture are flying.
Mm-mm.
So Josie and Lewis and I went outside, and God love them, they ran out and grabbed all the aluminum pans out of
Oh
the.
God.
And then we sat there for a while, and finally he's like, well, I'm just going to start cooking in the house. So he had every
Yeah.
pan we have on the stove. He had the hot dogs going, the hamburgers going, the
I
turkey
mean, what
burgers
a
going. We didn't have a choice,
yeah.
but it was
Yeah,
fun.
it's been doing this like it's supposed to rain every single day, but it's been literally like flash flooding.
Yeah, that was
And
last
then
night. The flash flooding
yeah,
was crazy.
it's been really, really
It can
raining a
move
lot.
on, but I mean, it shows a chance of rain every day, which kind of
Yeah.
is typical this time of year. But like yesterday, when all that came up, yet again, he was outside cooking and it started lightning. He's like, I'm gonna have to bring it in the house. There was no
Oh,
warning. I didn't get a, hey, we're gonna have a thunderstorm. You know how you get
yeah.
alerts? I didn't get
Yeah.
anything. Just 1 minute it was fine, and the next
It's
minute it was crazy.
yeah. It's almost like those summer pop-up heat storms.
Yeah.
A weird thing, a friend of mine was telling me that their underground dog fence, lightning hit that and it went through the wiring and
Mm.
it exploded and was on fire and everything out
Like
in
their
the
yard was
driveway.
on fire?
Just that box, like
Oh
it
gosh.
exploded and smoke was all over it. I'm like, what?
Never even thought about that.
I didn't either, but he said that was the second one that had happened to them.
We have issues with I think we've talked about this, our AC, and so if it lightnings or we get a surge of the lights flicker, sometimes it triggers it.
Yeah.
And Perry has to go out and open
Mm.
the outdoor fuse box that goes to it's a whole thing. But anyways, we need to get
Well,
a surge protector probably installed on it.
well, at least it's a safety feature and it's not just spontaneously combusting or
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, I'm
Oh
very
man.
excited this week.
Yeah.
I know you've got all kinds of notes and stuff, so I'm gonna let you take the
Well,
lead on it. But because
yeah.
you're so prepared. But to
No,
remind our
no.
listeners, if those of you that were listening, a couple weeks ago we did an episode on just nostalgic TV shows, and we talked about that, and then we mentioned that we had brought up game shows, and we said, well, that's gonna have to be a whole separate episode.
Yes,
And
yes.
I meant to look up, but I didn't do it, so I failed at my job. But I wanted to look up some statistics because when we were kids and even teenagers, game shows were legit. Like the
Yeah.
TV was full of them. They were on every
Yeah.
channel, morning, noon, evening. You could find a game
That's
show.
we called it for those of you that are, 12, uh, we called it daytime TV
Hmm.
and then prime time or
Yep.
nighttime TV. So, yeah,
Mhm.
daytime TV in the summer, if you weren't outside playing, you were inside, and it seems like it would start about 10:30 or 11 in the morning.
I was just about to say, I feel like once the news shows in the morning ended or today's show, Good Morning America, it went straight into game
Mhm.
shows. And
Mhm.
then the rest of the afternoon until the news again was soap operas, which is a whole
Yep.
other thing.
That's another episode, and
And then
our
you,
poor children will never know what those are, but they were
yeah.
just, I
And then
guess
it,
they were similar to what episodes or series are on Netflix now,
yeah.
or Lifetime.
But then you'd
Lifetime.
get through your soap operas and you'd have maybe a talk show or two, and then you'd have your news. And then usually there were one or two game shows before the 7 o'clock program started. So
Mhm.
we had a lot of game show action. So we're going to take a trip down
Mhm.
memory lane to some of the funny things about game shows that we liked and some of our favorites.
Well, and if you really think back, a lot of times when you're watching movies and the people are in the kitchen
Mm-hmm.
cooking dinner, you can hear the famous Wheel of Fortune on the
Mm-hmm.
television in the other room. And I was going to say that was one of the biggest or most popular
Is it still
uh
on?
Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I'm not
yeah. I
really
think
tuning in. So,
the daughter of the, or they have another person now. Honestly, I don't watch The Wheel anymore. But I don't. But that one was probably one of the longest running ever. It's up there with Jeopardy and
mm-hmm.
all of that. But growing up, it seems like I remember for sure The Price is Right was
Oh, yeah.
first thing in the morning. And man, would I love it. And my brother and I, or whoever, friends, cousins, we would sit around and watch it and be like yelling out numbers, like they would say, what's your what do you guess this price of this, the retail price of this? I don't know. It was a toaster or a
Yeah.
microwave oven. And they would go, 199, 255, and my brother always would bid $1 because if anybody goes over, then he
They're
was the
done.
close. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
done. And so he'd be like, yes, like he had really won the microwave. And I'm like,
Do
oh,
you remember thinking this was probably when I got older because that show was on for a really long time.
mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking sometimes, golly, that's expensive for that. But it was filmed in California. So things out
Yes.
there probably cost more, right? Because I would be thinking they do like a stick of deodorant. And the
Yeah.
guy might say $1.50 and they're like $4, which y'all
Yeah.
now I know that's how much deodorant is, even more than that. But back
Well,
in the
it's $8
80s,
here.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I
Oh,
was
yeah.
like, good grief, that's expensive. But I was like, oh, it must cost more out there.
Do you remember that one of the consolation prizes was always rice-a-roni? It was like a
The
box of
San
rice.
Francisco treat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a box of rice or a case of rice. I'm like,
I
wow.
always wondered, like, if you won like a washer and dryer or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, how are you getting it? Did they, I need to know, did they send it to you? Did
Oh,
you
you
have to,
probably had to pay for delivery now.
oh, I'm
You
sure you had
did.
to pay taxes on it. Because sometimes they gave
California
away
taxes.
tiny
Yeah.
things like rice-a-roni, or they'd give
Well,
away, a box of Take Backs.
radios. Yeah,
But then you
Caitlin.
might win a trip, or you might win a car, or you might win the
Well,
big.
that's a something I need to investigate because that's a good question. But yeah, like when you won the car, that was the biggest thing. It was like
Mhm.
a new car. They would yell and confetti would fall and everybody'd go crazy. And
So
they would
some of
show
the.
them
Oh, go ahead.
getting
Yeah.
in it.
Oh,
They'd go
yeah.
get in it and look at the camera, and sit in it.
Some young people. So I know Drew Carey did it in later
Yeah.
years, right? I wasn't watching it then, but the OG one with Bob Barker, right?
Yes.
When Carol and
Yes.
I were laughing, I said, "You know what I thought was the best, funniest thing was he had this really long, skinny microphone. I mean, it was the silliest
it
looking
was
microphone. It was like a stick.
it was like a baton.
Yeah.
And it was long and it had this bulb on the top. And you're like, do you really need that? And it's funny you mentioned that because I was watching an episode of something and I saw the guy, he was banging on it he said, this microphone's not working anymore. So he reached in his shirt lapel and took out, he had like a
Oh, another
backup in
one.
there. Yeah. He goes,
Oh
here, you
gosh.
can just talk to my finger. You can talk to my, he was interviewing somebody.
Okay, put this on the list. I need to investigate more about the Price is Right. Somebody has bound to have done a documentary about it. Like the
Oh, there
models
is
that were
one.
and
There
the
is one,
you
but
know,
it's not a good ending for Bob. Bob
okay.
didn't fare too well.
Where'd you
He was
watch
not,
that?
who knows, but he wasn't
I
very,
gotta look that up.
he wasn't very, let me just say appropriate
Okay. I
actor.
remember
So
that now, but I
yeah,
was just
yeah.
wondering more about like the ins and outs of the show, not so
Oh
much him.
yeah.
But
Yeah. I would love to know
well,
some.
back in the back in the 70s, I guess. I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember. We had some wild game shows, and we're all like
Mm-hmm.
kids sitting around watching them. And one of them was the dating game.
Oh, Lord help us.
And if you don't
Yes.
know what the dating game is, it was a bachelor or a bachelorette. That's what they called
Yes.
them. And then there were three lucky contestants of either men or women of the opposite sex. And they sat on the other side. So the bachelor and the bachelorette would come out and sit in this tall chair. And then there was like a wall that divided them. And then the three prospects were on the other wall. And there was like a host that mediated it, right?
Yeah.
And then the
And
person, go ahead.
the the contestants looking back, like they have film of them. Many famous people now.
Mm.
They were up and coming actors or whatever, and they would go on that show or actresses.
Like,
So
look
that's
it up
funny.
because the clothes in itself are very
Oh
entertaining.
gosh.
So entertaining. But they'd get on there and they'd be like, contestant number one, what is your idea of an ideal date? And then every
Uh huh.
contestant would give their answer. And and then I guess at the end she picked one and then they went on a date
Yeah.
or something. I don't
And
know.
at the time, they were not very kid appropriate answers, but they were right there on the line as far as being able to say it on TV.
Yeah.
Like they were very flirty and well, what they would say something ridiculous like my idea of a good night would be whatever your ideas are, and everybody go
Or
woo. But it
something
was
silly like sitting in front of a cozy fire with a glass of wine, staring
yeah,
into your eyes, something
yeah,
stupid and cheesy.
very cheesy, and we'd all be like, I guess we thought that's how you date,
Well, that's
if a
why they were
guy.
half of them were actors. They were probably practicing acting and they were, making up improv or something. That
Yeah,
was a
but they would
weird game show.
it was, but my favorite part was when they would say, and now you can meet your date, whoever, like Thomas Jones, and he'd come around the corner and they'd see each other for the first time and be like standing there like, oh, yay, yeah, we
Yay.
got
And then
to
they'd
stand
always
here.
send them somewhere, like on
Yeah,
a, a date
three
trip
days
or
something.
like,
Yeah.
I'm like, who's going out of town with somebody they just met? No,
I
thank
s-
you.
it was a little sketchy, but I do remember the giant daisies on the
Uh-huh.
wall, the decor.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was pretty cool. I enjoyed that. I'm backtracking to Price is Right. Some of my favorite games on there. Do you remember the one where you'd have to punch your fist in there and pull out
Mhm.
either a prize like, let's say it would be a tube of toothpaste,
Mm-hmm.
and you had to guess the retail price, and then they would, say, okay, you're saying it's $2.50, and then they go, is it higher or lower? And you'd have to change the numbers or whatever, and they
Mm-hmm.
take your money from you for the difference. That was, I don't know what that one was called. And then the beat the clock one,
Yep.
where they had the giant clock, and they would say, how much do you think the retail price is for this new lounge chair? And it'd be like a Broyhill
It
cloth
was always nice
something.
stuff. Yeah.
It was. But then you would guess your number, and they would
Not
set
before
the
you nervously
timer.
looked into the audience and they're all
No,
going,
and they're
higher,
yelling.
higher,
Yeah, they're
lower.
yelling numbers. They're going 485, 220, 212, or whatever. And then you would give your number, and the clock would start.
Yeah.
And they'd go 187, 88, 89, 99, 90, and then they would get the prize. It was so
It was
ridiculous.
a dramatic set. Like they had a
It
lot of
was.
stuff. I loved the Plinko game where they'd get up there and drop they go
Yes.
clink, 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 clink. I like that one.
And what about the golf? They did one mini golf thing. And
Yeah.
if you got the hole in one, you won the car.
Was there one with race horses or am I just imagining
Yes.
that?
No, it was mountain climbers. And it goes,
Oh, mountain climbers.
and they were climbing the
I
mountain.
remember that.
I do remember that. That was funny. I don't know how you made a move. I don't know what you were doing.
I don't either.
But they would go, they were like clicking
There's
and
probably
cranking.
some poor guy in the back having to operate it, thinking I
Oh,
get paid
dear.
not enough money to do this.
Yeah. But it always
Oh.
my favorite part of that show were the showcase showdown at the end,
yeah.
where you get to guess how much an entire
You got to
living
stand
room
behind your
was.
little podium, and then
Mhm.
Bob would so gently let you down if you had not won.
Yeah, but I liked it when they would steal. You could steal the other person's offer,
Mm-hmm. Oh, I
and
remember that.
and again, it would be like a trip to Hawaii and a new bedroom set and a
Mhm.
all new appliances, and they were bidding like $10,000, and they would win.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were close. That's how much it would cost.
Yeah. There were a lot of mechanics happening on that show because they'd spin the set around and there'd be the set of, I mean, the set of furniture you're winning would be sitting on the stage on this thing that
Mhm.
they just whizzed around and there'd be the lady modeling with it and
Mhm.
whatever.
And then they would spin the big wheel. That
Mhm.
that was later in like the 80s.
And that wheel looked heavy.
Yeah, if you landed on, what was it? You were trying to get $1.
Yeah. And there were some of them that were really good, but that was on for a really long time.
Yeah.
Always liked the Family Feud. It was on for the original. There's been, I think Steve Harvey does it now, but the original Family Feud with Richard Dawson.
Richard Dawson, yeah.
Yeah.
And he had a fetish for kissing women in the
Yeah,
mouth.
he was weird.
And that was a little odd and uncomfortable, but whatever.
But we would sit around and play with them on the TV trying to come up
Oh,
with
yeah.
answers, like
Yeah, we were yelling.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
I did read a couple of funny questions and answers from that game show. Well, no, they said they would always say, name something, and then they would
Mhm.
ask the families, but they said, name something you feel before you buy it. I'm thinking
A
comforter, some carpet, a puppy, or I don't know.
Yeah.
And the guy said, excited. You feel excited.
He was thinking feelings.
Yeah. And the host
funny.
just like dropped his head. I thought that was funny.
They had the aggressive if you didn't get
the 3 red X's.
the big
yep.
X would pop up. Well, we would
Mhm.
my granny loved game shows. Like she loved them. She would watch The Price is Right.
Yeah.
And there was one, this was later on. I was much older, probably a young adult. And it was a newer game show, so we were enamored with it. But Carol had to look it up because I couldn't remember the name of it. And I said, all I can remember are these people are on there like this with their hands like this, and they're going, big money, big money, big money, big money. And then they'd go, give me a whammy, give me a whammy, and then they'd hit the button and it'd go, boom.
Yeah.
They'd stop it. It was called Press Your Luck.
Yep. No, you didn't want the whammy. The
You
whammy
want the
was
whammy,
yeah.
whatever,
He would
but
go
Something about a
"Wah,
whammy and
wah, wah." Yeah, it was like a little devil or whatever,
That
and it
was
would
when they got a little more high tech. It was more electronic, right?
it
So that
looked like an
electronic game.
yeah, it looked like an Atari
It was really just
Devil.
luck. There was no strategy in it or
Uh-uh.
anything, and that's why they called it that. But that I was telling her, I was like, I just all I remember them yelling was something about the whammy, and their hands were up on the button, ready to go.
Oh, they would. They would yell big money because you could land on cash.
hmm
Um,
But I
but
think
if
if
you
you
got
got cash and then you got the whammy, didn't you lose it? Is that how it
you
went?
did, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Oh,
if you could stay alive, like if you got a whammy, excuse me, it would go to the next person.
okay, that's
So
right.
you're set, you're back to zero. But anyway, that I'm sorry. Back again to Family Feud. One of the questions was name something you buy in a larger size if you have a large family. And the guy said jeans.
He wasn't hearing the entire question.
Oh, it was a different
Much like
gentleman.
our students would not listen to the
Oh,
entire question.
yeah. They're like, I thought you said no homework for a week. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, that's not what I said. Another one I always loved was, and this one was when we were little, was the Newlywed Game. But they
You know what
would,
my favorite part of that show was? The set. I
yeah,
remember thinking the set was super cool, and I was
yeah,
telling Carol, I was like, didn't they like wheel them out, spin them out, or something? And they were in these little half circle looking seats, right? And you
yeah.
said, yeah, they would. Didn't they roll them out on stage?
Well, the set or their part of the stage was this big semicircle with lattice behind
Yep,
them.
the lattice. I remember that.
And then they had the stage split and they would take each side and they'd bring them out until they were one semicircle. So they were coming out in quarters. But
Yeah.
and the questions were ridiculous. And they
So
tried to get
dumb.
they tried to get all risque on there, but they couldn't say certain things. But you
So
were talking
imagine
about
this though, because like now, if you play a game, you use a whiteboard, right? This was something
Mhm.
else I loved. They didn't have whiteboards, so they in
Uh-uh.
their laps, I think it was in their laps, they
Yeah.
had big pieces of thick cardstock paper and a
Yep.
black marker. And they'd be like,
Uh-huh.
write their answer on it, right?
They would.
And then they, hold it up or whatever. How did the other person not see it? Were they blind?
Well, like if they were asking the wives a
Oh,
question,
the
the
husbands were gone.
husbands were, yeah, they were backstage.
That's
And
right.
they were backstage answering the same questions. What do you think your wife will say to this question?
And sometimes people would get really mad if
mhm.
the person, their spouse, did not get it
Oh,
right.
yeah, absolutely.
Question: did you have to actually be a newlywed, or could you have been married 10 years?
I think it had to be an actual newlywed.
I don't remember.
Okay, there's somebody knocking on my door and
Uh-oh.
he looks like he's selling something, so I'm not going to answer it. Carry on. He's got an iPad in his arm.
Yeah, he's selling something.
And he's
Skadoodly
knocking.
do, sir.
Look, bye.
Yeah, he's
There he
gone.
goes.
He
Yeah,
probably heard
no.
you say, I ain't answered it.
Well,
Back,
I'm
you were talking
busy.
about the questions on the newlywed game.
Yeah. They would always say, they would ask the wife and then the husband would answer. You were telling me how you thought it was so funny.
Well, it just cracked me up because, first of all, we're like watching this. I'm like, what in the world? And they were like, every single episode, I feel like they always ask, like, where,
What,
I don't
what's
even
the
remember.
most?
How
What's
many,
the most?
what's the most times you make whoopee in a month? And that's how they
Yeah.
called it, make whoopee.
Yeah.
And
Or,
I guess that's how they could say it on network television. I don't
Mhm.
remember, but it's the dumbest thing, make whoopee.
and look, all the kids, we were all like going,
Oh.
yeah. And well, now my son just pulled in the house, so I guess he'll talk to the internet guy. Oh, there he goes. He's on one of those wheelies out on the
Oh.
road. Yeah, he's a salesman.
I
Anyway,
think-
they
Go
would
ahead.
say things like, what's the strangest place you've ever made whoopee?
Yeah,
And it would be, I don't even know. Like, I can't even remember some of the answers, but then,
the word whoopee
they-
just is what always got me.
and if they had a match, every time they got one right, they'd turn and kiss each other.
Mhm.
And
they'd
they'd
like-
silly. They'd be like, yay. And they'd have, they'd go ding. and they give them 10 points on their
The old school
thing.
games, all like I said, the thing that I think was so cool, wasn't necessarily the game, the sets were. I was fascinated by how they were doing things. Like, for
Yeah.
example, I loved how that set would they would roll them out, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
the drama of The Price is Right, how they spin it around and there'd be the car or the furniture or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
then another one that I thought was super cool, and you told me this the other day and I can't remember it, but they would sit and they had like a little box in front of them and they would have to
Oh,
give clues to the other person.
it was the $10,000 pyramid.
That was like that, yeah, but they did this before they went into the
Oh,
center thing, remember?
yeah, they did. And it was similar to password.
Yes. So they
Like they
would
had to
sit
give clues and I'd
and then
have
it
to
was
make
popping
you,
up on
you
our
know,
screen so we could see it,
right.
but the other person couldn't. And they would sit real and they'd be like,
Well,
trying to decide something, describe something, and then whoever won got to go
mm-hmm.
to the final thing in this circular. And I was like, that's so fancy, the little circular
Mm-hmm.
thing, and they'd sit in the chairs, and they had the big pyramid behind them.
And do you remember they had leather straps you could run your hands in
Yes,
so you didn't use
I
gestures because if you
forgot
did, they'd go
that. Yep, I forgot that.
like
Yeah, like,
trying
they're
to
like
help.
strapped into the chair with their hands down, and they'd be like,
Well,
the thing would go bing, and they'd be like, um, blue, or, and they name off a bunch of
yeah,
stuff. And the
they're
person's
trying to
yelling
get
out things, and oh gosh, I
yeah.
love that.
They're like the sky. They're
Yeah.
trying to get them to say ocean, and
Mm-mm.
they're like water,
And
swim.
if they
You know,
finally, or they go pass, if they,
and then I'd get all like, "Oh no, you're gonna run out of time." I'd be watching the timer. Well, speaking of the pyramid, I looked this up. In 1973, it was called the $10,000 pyramid.
Mhm.
In 1976, they changed it to the $20,000 pyramid.
Okay,
In 1982, they changed it to the $25,000 pyramid. And in 81, the 50,000, and finally in 85, the $100,000 pyramid. So it went from 10 to
so they made
$100,000 in a
enough
matter
money from their TV show they could increase their grand prize.
in 9 years. Yeah. At
Cool.
70 to 85. Yeah.
I loved that one. Did that one
Clark,
of them wasn't a celebrity, was it?
Dick Clark was the mediator.
My
Oh,
headphones are
like Betty
itching.
White was
Sorry.
on it forever.
Yeah, there were
Betty,
celebrities on that sometimes, weren't there?
oh yeah, Drew Carey would be on there. Carol Burnett was, I mean, there was
Sorry.
always a guest star, like a star. And then the other person would just be
My
a regular,
I'm sorry if y'all are hearing a
person.
bunch of noise. My headphones are itching my head today.
And
All
my
right, what
other,
other shows were there, ma'am?
well, the Joker's Wild, I loved. Now that was the one where
Was that the one with the giant playing cards?
giant playing cards and they would spin. But my favorite part, there was a big pedestal, like, if you go to a casino and you pull the
Uh-huh.
arm, this was a giant arm. The ball was the size of a bowling ball. And if you got to go to the final playoff or round, you would take this giant ball and pull this stick down and it would spin the three wheels. But yeah,
I
you'd
don't
have to
remember
answer.
watching that one a lot.
Well, I loved it. You would have categories and you'd either pick A or B, and they would say, two birds and a whammy or two birds and a joker.
Mm-hmm.
Then that would be a trip. You could use your joker as a third bird and then you would win. But if you
Cool.
didn't, like you would say, I'll take the category of love, or another category would be transportation or whatever it was. But it was called Beat the Devil. That big giant, you take that big giant
That was the
thing
name of
and
the thing at the. Okay.
beat the devil.
I
And
don't
if you got a
remember that one. I'll
devil,
have to look
then
it up.
that was cool. And my other very favorite was Match Game with Gene Rayburn, and he had the stick wand, and
The
it
stick
had
wand mic.
yeah, it had 6 celebrities, and Richard Dawson was always on it. Betty White was on it a lot.
Match Game.
Can't
Hold on.
remember. Nipsey Russell was on it sometimes, but there were 6 of them. And like, if I was the contestant, I had to ask a question and they've already written their answers.
Okay.
So it would be like
I don't remember that one.
Batman blank or something.
Mhm.
And you would, if you got matched to whatever they said, you'd get a point. And they had a circle person and a triangle person. And if you filled up your circles, you had the most circles, you won,
Okay.
or the most triangles. I don't know. I
There
just
was
loved it.
another
But
one with celebrities, I thought, called Celebrity Squares or Celebrity Hollywood
Hollywood Square.
Squares. And they'd
Mm-hmm.
sit in those big. I
Uh-huh.
don't remember the premise of that game. There was a contestant,
They
and
answer
were they
trivia
asking them
questions.
questions, right?
Yeah,
Were they
but they were
trying to get
doing,
a tic tac toe?
yeah, tic-tac-toe. Like I was an X and you were an O, they would do points like
Yes,
that.
I remember that.
Um, let's see,
I
name
mean,
that tune was
name
a
that
good one.
tune. That's old.
But it was funny because I saw a clip of Kathy Lee Gifford. She was singing the tunes. Like
Okay.
they would say, I can name that tune in 7 notes. And she would sing the 7 notes.
Okay. Oh, fun. If you don't know what that is, there would be two people and they play or they'd say, I can name that in however many, and the other person would try to beat them and say, I can name it in only three, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes they'd be like, boo. And that's all you'd get. You'd have to name the song. I'm like, oh,
And
come
I don't
on.
know, but didn't they have a clue? They would give them a clue, like, for example, this was written by Francis Scott Key.
I think so. I'd
and
have
and
to,
you would, yeah,
yeah,
it would give them some
something.
kind of clue.
Later on in life, we had win, lose, or draw, which I thought was fun.
Loved it.
They'd sit around on the couch and draw pictures.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of became a game you could play at your house.
Mm-hmm.
Can't think if there were any. I think we hit all the ones that we.
Oh, Love Connection in the 80s. It was so cheesy.
It was very cheesy. I don't remember loving that one nearly as much as the match or the dating game.
Dating game was awesome, but Love Connection, if you want to see some 70s and 80s fashion, it was bad. There would be one guy, like he's gonna go out on a date, and there were three girls, and they would say, interview them, and they just show a clip of them, and they would say, I love to ride my bike and do gardening and go on long bike rides in the sunset. And then the next one would say something, and the next one, but the audience would vote on who they thought he should go out on a date with.
Oh
And whoever
yeah,
got the highest percentage, the studio, the game show, Love Connection would pay for them to go on the date. But
yep.
he could pick a different one.
I remember that.
But he
How do you remember that so much? Golly.
you could see what was very important to me as a youngster. All of the useless.
The only other one that's
Trivia.
coming to my mind now was a show on a long time ago called Let's Make a Deal. And the audience dressed up in these crazy costumes.
Loved it.
The host would go up into the audience and they were all
Mhm.
acting like crazy people trying to get their attention. And they'd be
His
like, let's
name
make a
was-
deal or something. And
His name was Monty Hall.
okay.
And he would say, I'll give you $400, or you can have what's behind curtain number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Or they'd say, or you can have what's in this box. And
I mean, sometimes they literally got a chapstick instead of the $400, I mean, it was,
yeah,
you were taking a gamble.
yeah. And I think they would do crazy stuff, like they'd mix it up. They would
Okay.
say, all right, I'm going to pick you, and people be dressed as like comic book characters or
Yeah.
book characters,
And
they'd
they would
say,
be
"Okay."
hysterical. They'd be so excited.
Yeah. And they would choose these 3 people to participate, and they'd say, okay, bring your purse with you or your bag with you.
Mhm.
And they'd say, whoever has, do any of you 3 have, and they would name an item. And if they had it in their pocketbook or their purse
Oh,
at the
yeah, yeah,
time,
yeah. I remember that.
they would win. And
Mhm.
it seems like it was always something crazy, like a Q-tip or
Something
a
you wouldn't
bottle
normally
of-
have with you.
a bottle of nail polish remover or something. Yeah.
And I mean, I know Nate Bargatze, the comedian, he has a game show. I have not watched it, but he has a game show. And I guess some Family Feud's still on. I guess
I
Wheel
do
of
love
Fortune.
Yeah, but Family Feud is hilarious to me still. I mean, Steve
It
Harvey
is.
is
I think
funny.
he's funny.
And they'll give these ridiculous answers and he just blankly stares
He
like,
will, and he'll make fun of
really?
them too, which I think is
Yeah,
funny.
yeah. Well, they're ridiculous. Like, I mean, really?
Well, we are
That
almost at the end of our time. We have 3 minutes, but I hope
okay.
that this has been a fun trip down the old game show memory lane.
Yeah. Anybody that can think of one they enjoyed watching as a child, shoot us a text or email and
Yeah,
add your 2 cents worth.
please. And I
Stay
guess,
cool out there.
yeah, stay cool, stay dry, and
Stay safe. And don't forget, don't make a fist. Start a list.
all right, guys, see you next time.
Bye bye.